I'd like to thank our sponsors, Blood Moon Box, a monthly subscription box service for period pads and tampons to help support all humans who have a cycle for that time of the month, and no need to run to a store to mix and match period supplies that don't cater to the entire ebbs and flows of your cycle. There are 2 box options based on your cycle, light and medium, and then heavy. And in addition to the period products, you'll also receive PMS herbal teas, a candle, and some other items for your time of the month. You can reserve a box by navigating to bloodmoonbox.com. And bloodmoonbox.com is on a mission to destigmatize the idea of period blood. At Blood Moon Box, they believe that it is the time to honor the enchanting magic within every person who has a cycle. So join us in embracing the magic of your cycle with Blood Moon Box. Hi, my name is Yasmin Tarehi, and this is Gateways to Awakening, where we host one-on-one conversations with leading experts in wellness, well-being, consciousness, and spirituality. Today's episode is with Erin Sullivan, known as Erin Outdoors. Erin Sullivan's photography is an exploration in wonder, creativity, and awe. And over the course of her career, Erin has traveled to over 40 countries, photographing landscapes and crafting stories from around the world built on curiosity and a desire to create connection. When she's not photographing the great outdoors, she's creating our great indoors, a wondrous miniature series that blurs the line between the real and the imagined. Using everything from vegetables to jello, large outdoor spaces are reinvented into miniature scenes, and viewers are invited to rethink the way they see the world and their place in it. Erin and her work have been featured on a CBS Sunday Morning, the Drew Barrymore Show, and the TED Stage, and she believes that life provides each of us with an interdisciplinary education and encourages us all to use it intentionally. And you can find her at erinoutdoors.com. And I'm very excited to welcome Erin to the show. She has now become a friend after I saw her presentation about miniatures. So welcome to the show, Erin.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here.
So, Erin, to kick it off, you are this world-class photographer. What does photography mean to you?
Photography is just my art form. Not just, it's my art form. Some people paint, some people create music, other people create film, sculpture. For me, photography is that medium. And it's a way to share the way that you see the world and your unique point of view and what you've experienced. And it's a way to communicate feeling.
And where do you choose to take your pictures? I mean, how do you come up with that idea of location or even what you're taking pictures of?
Really, it is 100% following my curiosity. If I have a little spark of curiosity for something, and for me, that's found in the weird and wonderful. So I'm really into bioluminescence. So, okay, well, why don't I do a project on glowworms? And I just get this idea in my head and I continue following it. It's like this little trail of breadcrumbs, you know? So it starts with an idea of curiosity, a little seed, and I just keep watering it and I see where it can go and I see where it can go.
I love that. Bioluminescence and glowworms. What?
I've done some weird projects.
I love that so much. What is maybe your top 3 or 4 projects from all the places and spaces that you have taken pictures in?
Okay, well, the project that I did on glowworms in New Zealand is for sure one. I photographed glowworms with a macro lens, and the way that they look in that macro, it's totally otherworldly because the light is kind of on the back of the glowworm, and then they have these little sticky things that kind of hang down from wherever they're perched inside the cave, and then that illuminates too. So it's just this really amazing otherworldly scene of like teal light, glistening light. Number 2 and 3, I feel like we're going to talk about for sure. I'll say number 2 is a project that I've done recently. Last year, I traveled to Socotra, which is a Yemeni island, and it's a biodiversity hotspot. It's known for its endemic species. It's known for these alien-looking plants. And I was there for a week just camping, and photographing all of the trees, the flowers, the people. And that was a really fascinating project and experience. And just, I show people these images and their eyes light up and they're like, where is this? They've never seen anything like it. So that's really special to me. And then the third one is my miniature series. It's called Our Great Indoors. I started it during the pandemic because I couldn't travel. We had to stay at home during that time. So I kind of I had this idea from childhood, like, I'm bored. What can I do? How can I stay creatively inspired? How can I still use my imagination? How can I still travel? And something I used to do as a child, and when I couldn't go outside or travel, or if I couldn't fall asleep at night, I would imagine little scenes in my house or little scenes like under the covers, whether it was like a little mountain or huge blades of grass. I would just imagine shrinking myself down. And I think every kid has imagined broccoli as trees. And so I decided to make that a reality. I thought, okay, well, I'm a photographer now, so maybe I could actually build those scenes and make them real. And so that's what I started to do with Our Great Indoors. And it's a series that I've since continued over the years, and I think I'll continue building on for as long as I live.
I love this so much, Erin. And we're going to definitely double click into Sakatra and then also the Great Indoors, because that's how I met you at this presentation that you gave on the Great Indoors. And it was one of the most motivating and inspiring talks I had seen in a very long time. And I was so moved by it, just because of what kind of perspective shift it forced everyone into in the room. And so we'll get into that. But before we go on, I want to actually talk a little bit more about the concept of photography, because I think it's also an art form that people can kind of all do at any stage of life. But can we all become these really creative photographers, or do you think some people are sort of born with kind of an intuitive way of photographing pictures?
I do think anyone can do it. I think that some people have more of a natural eye for it than others. But I mean, humans are highly adaptable, and I think anybody can really hone that skill and practice. And so much of it, which you hit on, is an intuitive sense. A lot of it is really getting to know your intuition and following it and following it and noticing and just continuing to notice more. So in that way, I think anyone can do it. We have cameras in our pockets with phones. So it's not about the gear that you're using. It's not about the settings. It's not about these super technical, quote unquote, photography rules. It's about having a vision in your head or even a question in your head, and then having the courage to go and try to answer that with an image, try to answer that in a frame, and continuing to learn and continuing to ask questions and continuing to seek.
That's cool. I love that, the question in your head. And yeah, because so many people, I think, just kind of are, take pictures maybe defensively. They like go on a walk, like, oh, that's amazing. Let me go take a picture of that. Where your perspective is more like have an inquiry, have kind of an idea and then follow that curiosity as well. It's kind of a mix of both.
Totally. It's like you could go to any landmark wherever you are and you see people flooding wherever it is, and everybody's got their phone out or their selfie stick or whatever. And after a while, you take one picture. I certainly have on my camera roll like 10 or 20 of the same exact picture. And some of them are mindless. Some of them I went to a place, I thought, oh yeah, I need to take a picture of this. So it is about that intentionality and about that, okay, well, let me set the intention before I take the camera out or before I take the phone out. and see how that changes the process.
Hmm. And what about that creative process for you? I mean, what does that kind of step-by-step creative process look like for you? Because you're not just a photographer. You actually, for people that go to erinoutdoors.com, you'll check out and see that Erin is this prolific creative mind and has built and created so many different things. And so I'm curious, when you are working on some creative project, what is that process like for you? And how can people in the audience maybe start to deepen their own creativity?
Yeah. So it depends on the project, but I'll use the miniatures as an example. It really starts as an idea. And when you have an idea, you have to be so gentle with it at first. You have to really treat it with such care. And so for me, that looks like kind of guarding it and being a little protective of it and creating a space to experiment with it. And so sometimes that means shielding it from self judgment. So giving your idea a chance and not saying, oh, that's stupid, that's bad, other people won't like that, or that's been done before, or other people do that better than me. There's like a million reasons why you shouldn't do something. But you'll never know what could be, or what could just simply be fulfilling to you if you don't give it a chance. So when you have an idea, you just notice the idea, you sit with the idea, you go, oh, hello, idea. And then you take the next logical step, just the next action. So maybe the next action is you make a little sketch, or maybe the next action is you go to the art supply store, or maybe the next action is you write about it. And I think that so much of that has to do with your personal intuition, and toward trusting your inner creative voice. I think that creativity, we're just the conduit. Creativity comes from source. It comes from something much bigger than us. And for that to continue reaching you, for that creative energy to continue coming through you, it has to come out as well. So you're like a faucet, and you have to turn on the faucet and let the water flow. And another reframe on this topic is, like, when it comes to ideas, I also coach people and I educate people on photography, creativity, and art. And people, my students, they judge themselves for their ideas. Say, oh, I don't know if I want to pursue that one. I don't really like it, or they nitpick it. But look, if you can get on board with that idea, that creativity, creative ideas come from source, they come from God, they come from higher power, whatever that is for you. Who are you to judge God's ideas? Like,
Yeah.
hello, they're God's ideas. They're just coming through you. So, like, why do you get to say that creator has given you this idea and it's stupid? No, you don't get to do that. So, the first step is give your ideas a chance, and then feel into what is that next logical step for you, or that next thing that just feels right, and do that.
Hmm. I love that so much. And that's beautiful, because I do think that a lot of people will kind of second guess themselves out of an idea that just needs to be watered and cultivated and birthed. And I think that's something that's just an interesting topic that so many folks, I think, who have these ideas oftentimes just don't allow it to kind of go on its journey.
Yeah, totally.
And
Mhm.
to have or ideas that go nowhere, right? Which is also part of the process of getting to something that does feel like inspirational and transformational.
Absolutely. We all have ideas that go nowhere. We all make bad art. It is necessary.
Right, right. So I love this. So Erin, what about the photography equipment that you consider essential? For someone starting out, what would you recommend?
So I shoot on Sony personally. So that's the system that I know the best. I think use what you have. I always say use what you have until you feel limited. When you feel limited, that's your time to upgrade. So if you're looking for your first camera, I would go with something in the Sony A6000 range. The Sony A6400 is a good one. And then a mid-range lens. A mid-range lens would be something like a 24-70 or a 13-50. The kit lens is usually good in these, like when you're starting out, whatever comes with the camera is usually pretty good. But look, the technology these days, like you can't really go wrong, in my opinion. It's just figuring out what system you like best. And it's spending time with it. So if you feel like you're limited by your phone or whatever camera you have, I would just ask, okay, well, why? And then that's the time to explore with some new gear. And then that's the time to upgrade.
That's great advice. I love that. Yeah, because I think a lot of people are like, we just want to get our hands, wet and get the latest equipment, and then probably don't
There's so
use
much pressure. There's so much pressure. It's really not about the gear, I promise.
Oh, well, speaking of that, so let's dive into this project, The Great Indoors, because that was so moving to me, just the way that you kind of formed the idea for it. So let's dive into this kind of in a step-by-step process for our audience who may have never heard of this concept or what it means. And I can also fill in my perspective as like an audience member.
I'm so curious about your perspective.
Okay, well, I will just set it up real quick. And so Erin was invited to this really amazing group that I'm a part of for a lot of transformational conscious leaders to present on kind of a new way to approach creativity. And Erin presented on The Great Indoors, which was not just The Great Indoors, but it was kind of a mix of things. But we had this exercise to do with The Great Indoors project, which really put everyone in the room back into their inner child, state. And it was such a memorable exercise. So I will just kick it off there and hand it to you.
Yay. Thank you for that. Okay. So prior to March 2020, I was doing outdoor and travel photography. My background is as a adventure travel guide. I used to lead adventure trips for teenagers around the world. That's how I spent my 20s. Even though photography was a longtime passion of mine, I didn't actually pursue that professionally until years later. And so I was doing outdoor and travel photography. I was also doing some on-camera hosting. I was hosting a mini series about the future of the outdoors. And then suddenly I have to stay at home. So, I'm watching my calendar like evaporate. Okay, I have no travel plans. I have no projects on the calendar. So what can I do? And that was a question of practicality and also about creativity and how do I stay inspired? So as I mentioned before, I started to think about what did I do when I was a kid in this situation? And I started really connecting with my inner child in that way. And the answer was that I would build little scenes in my imagination of adventure and play and expansiveness and travel. I've always just been so interested in travel, even though my family, we didn't really travel when I was growing up. I had no one in my family to look up to who did, but it was just something that like intrinsically I was so curious about the world. And so I thought, well, why don't I just build that? I have stuff that I could use. And the object that I would use most in my imagination as a kid was just my sheets and pillows. Because if I couldn't sleep, then I was definitely going to imagine like snowboarding down a mountain of sheets or, building a cave out of my pillows. So that was the first scene that I made was a pillow ice cave. And I realized in thinking about this concept, I thought, well, what's really going to make this successful from a photography standpoint is having a sense of scale. Because I can build the scenes, but if I don't have like a figure in there to show the scale, then it is just going to look like pillows. And I wanted to play with some abstraction. So I just did a little online search for figurines. I found model train figures, which people use for their hobby train sets. And I ordered some, and that's how I made the first scene. So the first scene is pillow ice caves. It is a couple of pillows creating a cave, and then I used like a satin fabric on the bottom to kind of create this watery texture. And then I placed the canoe and I positioned the light, and that was the first scene for Our Great Indoors. So the idea is that these are expansive, outdoor inspired, travel inspired scenes that are created using everyday objects.
I love this project so much because in the exercise that we were given miniatures, miniature kind of people, and we were asked to go out and play with them and to create pictures using our creativity and imagination with whatever physical surrounding we had, which at the time I believe we were in like Laguna Beach.
Yeah, like a conference center.
Like a conference center for, yeah. And it was so much fun. I just remember feeling just so giddy and excited to see like what I would come up with. And then the best part about the project is when you get into a scene, I think we were like putting the miniature like into the, coffee beans. And one of my dear friends from the conference, Leon, and I started to put tissue around the miniature so that the scene appeared to be one of snow in the background. It's really hard to explain it, I guess, over audio, but it was just so much fun and so rad. And I think what really moved me from the project was that you gave yourself this prompt, which was like, how can I have fun and use my imagination, creativity with very limited resources?
Yeah, I mean, I always think about like when this comes up, the idea of it being a prompt. It's like, yeah, and like we go to great lengths to be given constraints. Like that's what college is or university is, That's how we learn is constraints. And so it's a super simple concept, but that really kind of clicked for me with this project is okay, well, can I look at my restrictions? Can I look at my constraints as an assignment or as a project or as is something to create with, not necessarily an obstacle to overcome? And how does that change the outcome?
Yeah, I love that so much. Okay, so what about your journey, Erin? Was there a person that catalyzed you to come on this path? Tell us a little bit more about your journey. You mentioned a little bit about, doing travel adventure guides for teenagers, but I'm really curious. When was the first time that you picked up the camera? When was the first time that you really started your creative journey?
Yes. So I was very lucky in that my high school had a dark room and my high school had a photography, introduction to photography class. And I was an artsy kid and I was a creative kid and I always enjoyed creating. My mom was always doing stuff with us that's creative. She championed this project that she calls the paper mache pig because literally it's paper mache pig. So my mother, like many moms, buys stuff in bulk. So she would buy these big tubs of pretzels or whatever from Costco. And I guess she saw them and she just saw in her mind this giant paper mache pig. And she thought, we're going to make them. And so that was like a project that we did, me, my mom, and my brother, for like 3 weeks, was making pigs out of paper mache and the big tubs of pretzels. So I'm very, very grateful to come from my mother is extremely creative. And then had the dark room in high school. So grateful to have those kinds of opportunities and foundations. And I always loved photography. And I told my mom when I was 16, photography is the only thing I can see myself doing as a career. But once I got to college, once I got to university, I got scared. I kind of started to believe this myth of the starving artist, or this idea that if you want to make a living with creativity, you have to struggle, and you can't be abundant. And so I changed my major, and I didn't study photography in university. But I was totally drawn to travel, drawn to the outdoors. My end goal, which I think I had an inner knowing, was I want to be a travel photographer. I was always watching Anthony Bourdain. He was hugely influential in my life. Any like National Geographic show that was on, I was watching it. Um, and so I kind of did what Julia Cameron from The Artist's Way, who wrote The Artist's Way, she talks about this idea of being a shadow artist, which is when you feel like you're meant for something, or you feel like you really want to do something creative, but you're scared. So you do something that's like immediately adjacent to it. So for me, that was, okay, well, if I can't be a travel photographer because I'm too scared to pursue that, then I'll be a guide. I'll be a wilderness guide. I'll lead people on adventures. So I did that for years. I led adventure trips for teenagers around the world. Some of those were summer programs, and some of them were like seasonal jobs. So I would find a job for 3 months, and then I'd find the next one after that. And I'd pick a place I wanted to go to, and I tried to find a job in that country, and I'd go there. And then I'd have like a month off or something in between. But it wasn't until I got fired from a job I had taken, a full-time job that I had taken with one of those organizations, like an office job with one of the guiding companies, that I thought, okay, well, I really have to give this photography thing a shot, because this is not going away. It's like a nagging voice, like, I'm still here. You still want to do this. Like you still got it in you, So getting let go from that job was kind of this like eject button of like, okay, like she's not going to do it by herself. So like, we got to help her out.
I love that. I think sometimes when people face kind of adversity or difficulties, they sort of take it personally or get frustrated at the external thing. But really, oftentimes, I'd say like so many times, it's just a course correct, it just puts you back
Yeah,
on the path that you're supposed to be on. So, okay, so
totally.
that's amazing. And what
I
are you?
did take it personally. I'll tell you that. I did at first, but then it's like, how long are you going to take it personally? Like, are you really going to let it become your story? So that
Hmm.
was the question I had to answer. And what I came up with was, well, no, I don't really want my story to end here. I don't want this to
Mm,
be my story.
mm. Amen. I think a lot of people can use that as a piece of wisdom for all things in life that are difficult. So, and you talked a little bit about Sakutra earlier on as well, and
Yeah.
I want to go back to Sakutra because I know that during the presentation you shared some photographs from the island, and it has also been an island that has been on my mind for a long time. And, right now it's almost very difficult to get to, almost impossible to get to. And so I want to talk a little bit about what you found was inspiring and interesting on that trip of capturing the kind of the essence of Socotra.
Yeah. And it is an essence, not only because of just the overall feeling of it, but it's known for frankincense. I guess the best frankincense in the world comes from Socotra. So it is an essence, literally. So I saw a picture of a bottle tree, also known as the Socotra Desert Rose, which are these really bulbous, interesting looking succulents trees. They're really succulents, but call them trees. Um, in 2020, I was living with a roommate at the time. She showed me a picture. She said, "We have to go here. This is amazing." And I just kind of cataloged it in my mind. And I thought, that is amazing. Where is it? Where is this place? I've never heard of it. And ever since then, I just kind of had it in the back of my mind as a place I'd love to go and experience for myself. And an opportunity came. A friend of mine, Abdul Jamali, he's an astrophotographer, and we were wanting to plan a trip together. And we had the opportunity to go to Socotra. Another photographer friend of ours was heading over, and he had spots that we could take, and we just jumped at the opportunity. And so for me, it was an opportunity to experience and document a place that probably most of my audience had not ever heard of before, um, and wouldn't have like a reason to hear about. It's very isolated. It's closer to the Horn of Africa than it is to mainland Yemen. And at the time that I went, there was one flight a week going from Abu Dhabi. There are other ways to get there, but not really for tourists. It's hard for tourists to access, especially from the West. Um, so you go through a Socotri agency and you have to camp the whole week. So there's not a hotel. There's hotels in the main city, but not if you want to go and see the nature and see the like really special spots. But it's like nowhere else I've been. You know, if this place was easier to access, I think it would be like totally overrun with tourists. So, and then that's like another conversation that comes up for me is, well, we have to have conversations on tourism and how do we visit places mindfully and intentionally and with great respect for the land and for the people who live there. So that was kind of my journey that brought me to Socotra, and I fell in love with the place. It's totally magical. The people are so open and kind and fun and hilarious, and I just had a blast. And I plan to go back.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You got to check out the pictures for those who are listening. Go to Erin Outdoors on Instagram and check out, I mean, all your pictures really, but those ones, I mean, just really moved me almost to tears. And yeah. So, Erin, what has surprised you the most in looking back on your journey?
Mm. The more I learn, the less I know. Like, really, I am constantly humbled by life, by people, by land, by nature. There's so much to learn, and there's so much that I don't know. And I just, I feel, I truly just feel like God's child, like
Mm.
child in every sense of the word, just stumbling around here trying to find my way, and just trying to be curious while I do it, and trying to do it with an open heart. And I'm surprised all the time that there's always more to see. There's always more to notice when you really look.
That's like a quote, Erin. So good. There's always more to notice when you really look. Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, always. Gosh.
Mm.
And like more to learn. Oh my gosh. It's like you think you're done learning about something? Nope. No, nope.
You have like this student's mind always, which I love. And, who do you look up to as a teacher? I mean, who inspires you the most? I know you mentioned Anthony Bourdain, but how do you look for inspiration right now in the world?
Yeah, it's hard right now, isn't it? Or I'm having a hard time because I just feel so bombarded by opinions and bombarded by there's just I really think we need more curiosity. So that's what I look for. I look for an open mind. I look for an open heart. I look for someone who isn't so tied or married or inseparable from what they believe to be their opinion. I look for a mind that is open to change. Um, so certainly Bourdain was a hero of mine because this is a person that like totally led with curiosity and was willing to be wrong. Like the willingness to be wrong is such a powerful trait in a leader. And someone else that I mentioned is my mother, who I just think is such an example of a multifaceted creative and someone who says yes to life.
Oh, I love that. And how did your mom influence you in terms of your creativity, especially when you were younger?
Her stupid projects, man. They're not stupid, but you know what I mean? Like, she just always had these projects going for us. Um, I remember that she had this box that she called the rainy day box. And if there was a rainy day, we'd get to go down to the basement and get the rainy day box. And it just had a bunch of art supplies and sequins and pipe cleaners and just random glue, markers, crafts for us to do. And then when I was probably 10 years old, she remodeled the kitchen in our house. We had this really small kitchen. And so they were knocking down walls. And before they knocked down the walls, for like a week or two, my brother and I and my cousin, we drew all over the walls. We could draw whatever we wanted on the walls before they knocked them down. And it's just something like that. You know, she didn't have to let us do that, but she did. And it was purposeful, it was intentional. And it takes so much energy and intention to set that stuff up for kids. So I'm just so grateful that she did.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I love that. The rainy day box. I grew up in Chicago. It'd been nice to have like the snowy day box.
Totally. Yeah, there's still time.
I know now that I live in California, it's
You're
like
in LA,
rainy,
you know,
or
windy day box.
the windy day. We could do the windy day box, or like
Yeah.
the June gloom box in Los Angeles. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's cool. And so what about, in terms of this subject of photography and really curiosity, why do you think this subject is important, Erin?
I think we arrive here with curiosity and with open hearts, like totally open. And then we get into this society as adults, or this place where we harden and we close and we think we know everything and we think we're right. And following your curiosity takes those walls down and it opens the heart. And when you open the heart, you want to understand, you want to empathize, you want to connect, you want to love. And I think all of those things are what lead to a better world.
Mm. Yeah, this is such a quotable interview. I'm like, quote,
Oh,
quote,
thanks.
quote. It's amazing. It's so great. So, Erin, so you left Los Angeles recently and have kind of relocated to Europe. What's next for you? What are you excited about?
Don't know. Well, I know a little. So I'm not in Europe yet. It's so beautiful and interesting being in an in-between space, being in a liminal space. So I'm spending some time with my family right now. And then I'll be heading to Europe shortly, starting in Greece. And that's just another following the curiosity, another just feels right kind of decision. And that's not to say that it's all like super easy or that it all is without fear or trepidation. Cause it's like, yeah, I'm relocating to Europe for the foreseeable future. It could be 3 months, it could be a year, it could be more. But I do have things to figure out, big things to figure out with running my business and with just general life admin, So I don't. I want the listeners to know, like, it's not just, oh yeah, I don't worry about anything. It just all falls into place. No, it's like a choice every single day to choose to believe that it is all going to fall into place because I am going to do my part and the universe is going to do its part.
I love that this like trust, this like inherent trust with this higher kind of order of, kind of almost like the natural laws of the universe. And I love that.
You have to trust life. You have to trust life. You can't live your life like white knuckling the steering wheel. You have to give yourself some ease and trust that you're not alone.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who can like do surrender better than you. I mean, you really do.
Really?
Yeah, you really do
Thank
surrender
you.
well.
Oh, I have to. If I don't, I would drive myself crazy.
So, Erin, what do you want to tell our listeners about their kind of wellness, well-being?
Mm.
What's your main takeaway? If you could tell them anything, what's your message here?
Hmm. Learn to trust yourself. Learn to be able to hear your inner voice, and that will lead you to your creativity and continue to follow it.
Amazing. Amen. Amen. And where can people check you out? Are there any resources that you can point folks to in order to learn more about you? And maybe you can also tell us a little bit about your courses and classes on photography and beyond.
Sure. So Erin Outdoors everywhere. So Erin Outdoors on Instagram. That's the platform I'm most active on right now. ErinOutdoors.com. I have a course called The Confident Photographer, which is about learning your main camera settings, aperture, shutter speed, ISO. So not like me reading a camera manual to you, but me explaining to you the principles of how those things work so that you will have a solid foundation for your photography education from that point on. I believe it's about the principles. You got to understand why things work the way that they do. You don't have to memorize numbers or anything like that. And then I also have a community called Photo Wonder, where we do monthly calls about photography and creativity, business. If you want to make photography or pursue a photography as a business or creativity as a business. And then we have a Discord server as well, where you can get help and ask me questions throughout the month. So all that stuff you can find on my website, erinoutdoors.com, and on my Instagram at Erin Outdoors.
Amazing, amazing, Erin. Well, I will definitely be following your journey and your travels, and I'm subscribed to your newsletter, which I absolutely love. And yeah, I just wish you all the best. You're such a kindred soul. So thank you so
Thank
much for your time.
you. I'm so glad we met.
Yeah, likewise, likewise. I just kind of knew immediately. I was like, definitely my people.
Totally. Yep.
Awesome. And so, for our audience, thanks for joining and for listening. In this episode, we learned about photography and miniature creative projects with Erin Outdoors. And you can tune into Gateways to Awakening, where we host one-on-one conversations with leading experts in wellness, well-being, and spirituality. Thanks again. What would you like to see change in your life? And what is the biggest obstacle that you're facing now? I run a 5-week program at the Inner Knowing School for serious individuals who are ready to take the next step in their personal and professional lives. I will personally be coaching a small group of individuals, a number of practical tools and frameworks for creating an intuition practice and for self-mastery. You can find more at theinnerknowingschool.com. I have a master certification in intuition medicine, and I've condensed 10 plus years of experience and research navigating how to harness your energy and intuition in an easy to access live curated course. Now, as someone who's helped countless creatives, entrepreneurs, and many who are just plain stuck, open doors of possibility they never thought existed, I've seen this strategy transform people's inner states and external reality. And the best part is that you'll skyrocket your output and unlock your creative genius. I'll work with you weekly live to overcome your limiting beliefs and show you how to manage your energy instead of your time. I'll teach you how to create clarity, processes, develop your intuition based on some of the top tools and frameworks that I've developed. And you'll get access to guided meditations and visualizations not available anywhere else. This method is so effective that even if you don't have that much time, or if you think that you might not be ready, this will work for you. You can check out the link in the show notes to join the waiting list, and you can check out what past clients had to say about the program. Wishing you all many blessings ahead.